ಈಗ cerebellum ನಮ್ಮ ಹೇಳ್ರಿ ಹೆಂಗಿರೋದನ್ನ 14 minutes let me start fast. Okay, so cerebellum is a part of the hindbrain and it is called as the little brain because it is a smaller version of the cerebrum. Okay, it looks very similar to cerebrum, a lot more folded and a lot more arborated. Okay, so let's consider this to be our cerebellum. Okay, so it is going to be similar like this only. So it's going to be it's going to be transverse diameter is going to be more than the this diameter. Okay, so the transverse diameter is going to be longer. It's going to be much more larger than the anteroposterior diameter. Okay, so that is, if we were to more than that, this would be more perfect. Okay, so let's consider it like this. So the transverse diameter is going to be more than the anteroposterior diameter. Okay, so it's going to be like this. So now the thing is that this cerebellum of ours is going to have a superior and an inferior part. Yeah, it's going to have a superior surface and an inferior surface, and it's going to have an anterior part and a posterior part, and not just that, and this is going to be involving a lot of sulcus and fissures. Okay, so it's going to have so many sulcus and fissures and all. Okay, so the parts that are like bulged, they are going to be called as the folia. Okay, they're going to be called as the folia. So the major sulcus that, or the fissures that we can see over here, is going to be the horizontal sulcus, which is going to divide it into a superior, a superior part and an inferior part. So it's going to divide it into like this. And if we were to take a look at the superior part, we will be having a V-shaped sulcus like this. A V-shaped part like this, which is going to divide the superior surface into an anterior lobe and a posterior lobe. This is going to be called as a fissure prima. This is going to be called as the fissure prima. So we got an anterior lobe and a posterior lobe, and this posterior lobe is going to comprise of the superior surface, the posterior surface, and also a part of the inferior surface till we reach the posterolateral fissure, which is going to separate the posterior surface from the flocka nodular part. So it's going to separate it from the flocka nodular part. So this entire, a better version than this box will be a clamshell. You remember the mirror that Amma used to have, a clamshell like this, right? That is exactly how our cerebellum is going to look like. So if the clamshell is like this and I cut it along the horizontal fissure, so I can open it like this in such a manner that I will be able to see both the superior as well as the inferior surface like this, right? And the place wherein this is going to be attached, similar to that, we will be having a part called as the vermis. Yes, we will be having a part called as the vermis. So the entire cerebellum is going to have two lateral parts and a vermis. Yes, it's going to have two lateral parts, which is going to be this, and lateral hemispheres, and it's going to have a central vermis. Yes, so now what happens is that this vermis, how is it going to be present? On the superior surface, if we were to see the superior surface, it's going to be convex on both the sides, and this convex part is going to cover the middle vermis. Yes, whereas if you were to see the inner part or the posterior part, what happens is that it is going to be bulged, okay, more than this. So why am I showing like this? Because if we were to see it from here, then it will look a little bulged, because it is convex upwards and it's going to be bulged over here. I put it like this and I see it's going to be bulged inwards. It's going to form a valley-like structure. This is going to be called as the vallecula. Yes, and this is going to be called as the vallecula, and the vermis is going to lie on top of the vallecula. Yes, and a part called as the sulcus vallecula is going to separate this vermis from the lateral hemispheres. Yes, of the posterior aspect. This is the most of the external features of our this one, and this vermis can be divided into 10 parts. Yes, it can be divided into 10 parts. Lingula on top and nodule in the bottom, and these can also be classified on the basis of not just on the functionality, but also not just on this anatomical basis of anterior lobe, posterior lobe and all, but also on the basis of their on the basis of their evolution. Phylogenetically also it can be classified as archicerebellum, paleocerebellum and neocerebellum. Yes, so the archicerebellum is going to be comprising of the lingula and the nodule in the anterior part and the posterior part. And speaking about it, we are going to have an anterior notch and a posterior notch, and this anterior notch is going to go fit itself to the pons, to the brainstem, and the posterior notch is going to be deep and lot more narrower, because the only part that it is going to fit with itself is going to be the falx cerebelli. Okay, on top of this we're going to have the tentorium cerebelli, we're going to have the falx cerebelli like this, and posteriorly we're going to have the squamous part of the occipital bone. Yes. Now moving on forward, we will be dealing with, so now that we have seen the various parts of the morphological features of it, let us see whether I have missed something. Yes, so sulcus velliculae is mentioned, anterior cerebellar notch is mentioned, folia. Yes, so the folia I have also mentioned. These are going to be the elevations that are going to be present, and this elevation is going to be filled with the white matter. Yes, it's going to be filled with the white matter, and this is going to be forming the arbora vitae. Yes, which is going to be the tree of life. And then I have also mentioned about the parts in the lobes of the cerebellum, right? The various parts in the lobes of the cerebellum. So that is going to be the arche cerebellum. Next we got the paleocerebellum. Paleocerebellum, we have the first, apart from the lingula, the other two parts of the anterior cerebellum and the pyramid and the uvula of the posterior cerebellum is going to be a paleocerebellum. Rest everything is going to be neocerebellum, or it's going to be new. Okay. Now moving on forward to the most important part of this entire topic, which is going to be the internal features or the histology of this cerebellum. For that I'll be requiring the board.